Few can doubt sincerity with which Walsh and director-producer Stephen Simon, producer of Somewhere in Time and What Dreams May Come, I mentioned that earlier, and co-founder of the Spiritual Cinema Circle DVD subscription service, what they bring to their project. As a film-going experience independent of its message, Conversations with God is not entirely satisfactory, so he says. Though there are flashes of brilliance in Czerny's portrayal of Walsh's, witness the aforementioned encounter with a hamburger as well as the barely maintainable poker face during his book contract negotiation. That's the part of the movie where he's making his major transition into living his dream. At other times, his acting is merely puzzling. For me, just seeing Neil Donald Walsh's picture was really a challenge for me to see somebody playing the part. That would be like somebody playing my part. I couldn't imagine anybody playing me. No one in this whole world knows me except God. Imagine that. And it continues to say, for instance, when near the end of the film we encounter Walsh's doppelganger as an earlier despairing version of himself, we look into his eyes and see pretty much nothing going on, when it's pretty safe bet that the director had really intended for us to be smitten with the intensity of the character's suffering and confusion. If you're just tuning in the last 15 minutes of this wonderful hour of Calling All Angels Hotline, I'm Sandra, and I'm still patient, peaceful, and waiting to hear from you. The number is 422-3902. I look forward to talking with you. Back to the movie, Conversations with God. A cinematic decision which was less than successful was the choice to insert recurring pale images of a matronly woman cradling the hands of a small boy across the table, apparently engaging in palm reading to divine the boy's future. Maybe the filmmakers thought a device like this would be creating a compelling mystery to hold the audience in thrall and propel the movie forward until resolve. But instead, the woman and boy became little more than annoying interlopers with little apparent connection to the plot. When the mystery is finally revealed, the payoff does not justify the interference with the flow of the movie. I must tell you, my take on that was every time they showed this image or vision of the woman sitting at the table with the young boy, I could only relate that to my own personal life with my son, how he looks up to me as in admiration and for mentoring and unconditional connection. I can also understand how from continuous practice of going within and being totally connected with somebody spiritually and not being physically present is and does serve and act as a guide or a angel and messenger. And that part of the movie was very real to me, to see that how good it was portrayed, that Neil relied on that once he made that connection. He knew that he had somebody he entrusted to as a spiritual guide to go back and get the direction. And this person that he identified with, I'm thinking his mother, who he entrusted so much, he relied on her to continue their journey, even though she was perhaps on the other side or somewhere out there in time. And he relied on that guidance to continue on his journey to bring him up. And all I could think about was, I remember watching those parts in the movie and just thinking, when times get so low, when they get so low where we think we are so low that the only place to go is up. And it's more than a ray of hope. It is a shining light that directs me when I am in those places of balancing to depend on the next step of faith. So, enough said for the boy at the table with his mother in the wonderful movie Conversations with God. Now there was a narrative question which is never sufficiently dealt with in Conversations with God. And why did Walsh start having conversations with God? Why at that particular point in his life? Anybody out there know? Anybody out there have a take on that? If you're watching, I want to hear from you. I need your help. Calling all angels. Hello, call the hotline, 422-3902. Why at that particular point in his life? In a question and answer session following a pre-release screening, Walsh and Simon tried to provide answer. Their live response made sense, but the movie itself fails to provide sufficient clues from which the audience can venture a guess. These sorts of critical plots, turns, and motivations should not require subtleties to be added for a film goer to go figure out what's happening and why. Can any of you out there tell me why? To that question again. Why did Walsh start having conversations with God in the first place? Why would you start having conversations with God in the first place? Call me, 422-3902. And we have a few moments to chat before this wonderful full hour is over. And then I'll tell you what my take is. Continuing on, I would like to continue to be the change that I want to be. That's what I thought about through this whole movie. How there was one real important message in there, and it was so eloquently explained when, in the movie, Walsh is thinking out loud, and he asks God to answer one important message in 5 words. What would God say in those 5 words to answer the most important message on the planet? What do you think? What do you remember from the movie if you watched it? Imagine for a moment. Wherever you are, whoever you are. I can refreshingly say, I will tell you if you call me, 422-3902. Call the Calling All Angels hotline. I want to hear from you, and I want to tell you. I want to share that with you because it is so cool.